Decarbonization Capex is competing with shareholder returns. Ask the CEO of any major freight operator, industrial manufacturer, or port authority whether their organization is committed to decarbonization, and the answer is almost uniformly yes. Net zero targets are set, scope inventories are complete. The strategic direction is not in dispute at the executive level. The problem is the gap between the commitment and the capital, and that gap is structural, not cyclical. In transportation and industrial sectors, the infrastructure required to decarbonize, electric fleet charging, hydrogen fueling networks, grid-connected industrial electrification, is capital-intensive and long-cycle. Against a standard 10 to 15% hurdle rate, most of these projects don't clear. The primary financial benefit is cost avoidance and risk reduction, not revenue generation. Risk reduction doesn't appear in an IRR calculation unless someone explicitly builds it in. So the Capital Committee keeps sending it back, not because the organization changed its mind, but because the financial machinery keeps producing the same answer. Why activists keep winning? Overlaid on the IRR problem is a shareholder pressure dynamic that has been sharpening for years. The activist argument is consistent. These companies are generating cash flow and deploying too much of it into long-cycle projects with uncertain returns, when that capital should be returned to shareholders or used to reduce debt. In the near-term framing, the argument is largely correct. The problem for boards defending green capex is that the long-term risk case, regulatory exposure, asset stranding, eventual forced compliance cost, is genuinely harder to quantify with precision than a concrete buyback yield. Activists don't need to prove the long-term case is wrong. They just need to make it look speculative. And on a quarterly earnings call, speculative loses to concrete every time. The constraint nobody is escalating. Here's what makes the capital allocation debate incomplete. A growing number of industrial operators report that they have approved capital sitting idle, not because of the CFO or the activist, but because the grid isn't ready to receive it. The average wait time for a large industrial load to connect to the grid now exceeds 4 years in much of the United States. Equipment lead times for electrolyzers, battery storage, and high-capacity EV charging have stretched to 36 to 48 months. A company that approved an electrification investment in 2023 may not be able to operationalize it until 2027. This infrastructure readiness gap is being managed as an operational delay when it should be escalated as a strategic bottleneck. Grid congestion and interconnection constraints require permitting and utility engagement that starts years before deployment, not after the investment is approved. Organizations that haven't begun that process are not ready to invest when the time is right. They are already behind. The replacement cycle window. There is one dimension of this problem with genuine urgency. A significant portion of U.S. and European freight, rail, and port infrastructure is entering end-of-life replacement windows over the next 5 to 10 years, simultaneously with decarbonization requirements arriving with increasing regulatory specificity. The combination creates a narrow window in which both capital events can be merged into one. Replacing aging diesel equipment with low-carbon alternatives at end of life is significantly less expensive than replacing functional equipment early. The organizations making the most progress on decarbonization capex are aligning investment with replacement cycles that were already in the capital plan and evaluating the decision on life cycle cost rather than incremental IRR. That window is closing. Decisions being made about rolling stock, terminal equipment, and port machinery in the next 3 to 5 years will lock in either a low-carbon asset base or continued fossil fuel dependency for the next 15 to 20 years. Deferring doesn't avoid the capex. It just determines what technology gets deployed and at what cost. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.